Now, back to Boots in the Gang. This is the Auto Smarts Radio Network.
Thank you for joining us every weekend. You always have a home right here on the Auto Smarts Radio Network, as does our next guest. He is Jeff Gammons. He is Vice President of ACAT Global. And, Jeff, we welcome you to the program.
Thank you. Happy to be on the program.
Well, let's talk about the reason why we're calling. We understand that your company has been working on a new catalytic converter. First of all, why don't you explain for the layperson out there, because even though we have gearheads that listen every week, some people may not know what a catalytic converter actually does and why you needed to make a new one. So in layman's terms, what does a catalytic converter do and why did you make a new one?
Well, first off, catalytic converters probably have had the biggest impact on cleaning up our environment since they were implemented back in the 70s. Basically, no matter how efficient your internal combustion engine is, you still end up with some not so favorable fumes or chemicals, primarily being carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and just unburned hydrocarbons. And what a catalytic converter does is it converts it into a more environmentally friendly gas, which is carbon dioxide. Plants use it. When you exhale that. Mm-hmm. Also, it converts it to pure nitrogen, which, your gearheads probably know. Many people fill their tires with that. Mm-hmm. And lastly, it converts it to water, which is, much more friendly than carbon monoxide and nitrides of oxygen.
Okay, I'm not a chemist, so I got to ask you this question, and please bear with me, because even though I'm a gearhead, I know a lot about cars. When it clogs, okay? What happens? I mean, does that stuff just absorb it? Or I thought there was always a chemical reaction that when the heat and the exhaust hits the platinum and all the other goodies that are inside of it, that it converts it over. But when it clogs, what's happening there?
Well, you're correct. There is a chemical reaction. The precious metals, the platinum, palladium, and rhodium, don't actually take place. They're just a catalyst that causes or helps a reaction along.
Okay.
Similar to when you put salt on ice on your driveway for those folks that are in the northern climates. The salt stays there, but it just speeds up it causes the ice to melt. That does the same thing. Now, if your catalytic converter plugs up, there's probably something else wrong with your vehicle.
Okay. Right.
A plugged catalyst is usually a symptom of something else.
No, but what's going on inside? Because I've personally never opened one up. It clogs. I cut it off. I buy a new one. I complain about the price. I put it on there. But what's going on in there? So if the car's running too rich, let's say, and it's got some, a MAF sensor going bad, and it's causing all those issues. What does it look like in there? Just a clunk of corrosion, or I don't know.
Well, no. What happens is if it's running too rich, now you have a whole lot of extra unburned fuel going into your catalytic converter.
Right.
So that means it has to work much harder to catalyze or to use up this unburned fuel or partially burned fuel and convert it to either CO2 or water or nitrogen. Okay. And what happens many times is that it overheats, and then most catalytic converters found in passenger cars today are ceramic, and it literally will melt that ceramic a little bit, and it clogs up.
Okay. Well, that's what I was wondering, because I've never really, I'm embarrassed to ask you that question, because I've told people, hey, your cat's clogged, and they go out and do it, and it fixes their problem. But I it's like oils. There's just certain subjects I try to stay away from on the show, because you have to be very educated and understand chemistry to understand how all this stuff works. That's why I'm so honored to have you on the show today, because
we have no educated people in this studio right now. So
especially when it comes to that inside that little $1,000 replacement on a lot of cars.
So again, Jeff, what does your new catalytic converter actually do then?
Well, if you look inside of a catalytic converter, and obviously you've looked into plugged ones.
Yes.
Right.
But if you looked into a good one, you'll look into it and you'll see a honeycomb-type structure. And you'll be able to see light through the other side. And it's like a bunch of little square straws all stacked up on top of each other. And you take that ceramic substrate and then you coat it with these precious metals. And as your exhaust gas passes through there, it touches these precious metals, and the chemical reaction occurs. Well, what we've done is we're using a stainless steel substrate instead of ceramic, and we put a herringbone type pattern through there, so you can't see straight through this catalytic converter anymore. And if you look down into a conventional catalytic converter and you put an inch by inch, you'll count most likely 400 to 600 little tiny squares per square inch. And if you look down into ours, you would count about 200. So we have larger cells, which means the gas can pass through much more freely, and you get better flow. But yet with the herringbone, like a nice herringbone jacket, if you gentlemen or a lady have one of those, just imagine you're looking at a herringbone, and they're stacked on top of each other. So as the gas passes through there, it's going to make all these turns, and it comes in contact with the catalyst material, the precious metals, on the walls of each of those little channels. So we make a larger cell or a larger passageway so the gas can flow more freely, yet it still comes in contact with the precious metals. So you end up with a catalytic converter that creates less back pressure for that engine. And your experience with plugged ones tells you that back pressure is a bad thing.
So does it help with the gas mileage then?
It can. If you have less back pressure, it allows you to get more power out of the engine with the same amount of fuel. In addition, it weighs less than a ceramic converter. And on a typical V6 or V8, it'd save you probably about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds.
Okay, and there are some other benefits of your products. I know they're good for the environment, but there's other things that it does for the car, correct? There's other benefits?
Yeah, there is. A straight channel, in addition to the weight, from the OE standpoint, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, what have you, they're always looking for ways to save weight, so they are interested in the technology. Also, too, we have an EPA line. It's a replacement catalytic converter. If yours is plugged up, it's gone bad for some reason or another, impact, anything like that. If you use our catalytic converter, because it doesn't pass straight through, you end up with some improved sound characteristics. So, if you got an individual that comes in with a minivan or a regular four-door sedan that needs a new catalytic converter, when you replace it with ours versus a standard one, they will notice that it sounds quieter since it absorbs sound. So it's always a good benefit. Everybody wants a quieter vehicle for the most part.
Jeff, in the last 30 seconds, I know you've tested this vehicle already on the Bonneville Salt Flats as well, too, and you've broken some speed records there as well, too. In a sentence or two, can you tell us what's happened there?
Well, we also tested it and set a land speed record on a Honda 600 CBR with the catalytic converter. So, it applies to more than just cars. But, we're testing on diesels, on a Duramax GM diesel application, and we're continuing to test on other applications. And we have a full line of both EPA and performance catalytic converters available for the marketplace.
And, Jeff, for more information, is there a website or a phone number people can go to for more information?
Yeah, probably the best place to go would be to our website. It's called acatglobal.com. It's all one word, acatglobal.com. And they can click on there. They can send in an email to get information, and there's a phone number there as well.
Jeff Gammons, Vice President of ACAT Global, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it.
Sir.
Call me anytime you'd like.
All right.
We'll take a break. This is the Auto Smarts Radio Network, as presented by Pepsi.